Drop.
In this video, I'm going to be going over the out command and how to teach it to your dog. The out command is ideally one of the first obedience commands that we want to teach our dogs. But before we teach this very important obedience command, we want to ensure that the dog has a very high motivation and desire to play with us and play with the toy item that we're using. I highly encourage anyone that is using toys in their training to delay teaching the out command for as long as possible until their dog is highly motivated, to the point where they're having to force the toy out of their dog's mouth. The reason why is because incorporating the out command is going to start foundations of impulse control over the dog. And sometimes early impulse control can dampen a lot of the motivation that we're trying to bring out in the training process using play. So if you need to spend some more time building up your dog's motivation, do so. Otherwise, we can begin teaching the out command. Now, the out command serves a multitude of purposes. One of the first purposes of the out command is that it helps to establish impulse control at an early stage in the training process. This impulse control is extremely helpful for later on, when we're trying to teach the dog to perform obedience commands and distractions. The second thing that the out command teaches is authority to you as the owner. When teaching the out command, we're asking the dog to relinquish something that they want and highly desire. For the dog to do this, the dog has to have a level of understanding that you are an authority figure in their life. And by teaching a solid out command, we're teaching the dog to respect you as the authority. This is one of the many benefits that using play and training has. Another benefit of teaching the out command is that it helps us transition the dog from playing a game of tug with us to switching them over to an obedience mindset. If we cannot have the dog relinquish the toy with the out command, and then also teach the dog not to bite back onto that toy item until we give them permission, we cannot expect the dog to perform obedience commands. This is why teaching the out should be one of the very first obedience commands you teach to your dog, as we shouldn't be progressing on into the training until the out command has been solidified. Now, on to teaching the out command. Begin by playing with your dog and having them bite onto the toy item. As you are playing with your dog, begin by saying the out command and then letting go of the toy item. This is going to eliminate any tension that the dog has on the toy. Once you let go of the toy item, begin to use the dog's leash and collar and apply consistent pops to that collar until the dog drops the toy. When the dog drops the toy, you can verbally praise them and tell them good. You can then reach for the toy item, bring it back up, and then let the dog re-engage with the toy item by using your toy reward marker. You will then repeat this process until the dog begins to out the toy without you having to utilize the leash and collar to get them to relinquish the toy. Now, in many cases, the dog will try to bite the toy as it's on the ground. If the dog does try to do this, simply tell the dog out again, let go of the toy item, and then utilize the leash and collar to get the dog to drop the toy. Repeat this process until the dog lets go of the toy item and doesn't attempt to bite the toy item until you give them permission with the toy reward marker. If you have a very clear and strong toy reward marker, you can begin to incorporate elements of impulse control with your dog. To do this, you can move the toy item around your dog's face. And if they go to bite onto the toy item, you simply say out, let go of the toy item, and use the leash to get the dog to relinquish that item. As you continue these repetitions, you'll begin to notice that your dog waits patiently and shows impulse control before biting onto the toy item. When the dog shows ample levels of impulse control around the toy item, this is when we can start to incorporate obedience commands after we give the dog the out command and regain possession of the toy. Now, I'm going to be going over a few quick tips to help you when teaching the dog the out command, as well as how to maintain the out command over a long period of time. The biggest tip that I have is to not start obedience too soon. If you begin to start obedience as soon as the dog starts to relinquish the toy item, but before you've established a level of impulse control, the dog is going to less likely give you the toy, because they'll learn that every time they out the toy and you regain possession of it, they have to do obedience. In the very beginning of teaching the out command, we want to have the dog out the toy and immediately reward them and teach the dog that the faster they let go of the toy item, the faster they're allowed to go back into the play sequence. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when teaching the out command. They're very eager to get the dog to out the toy item to then go back into the obedience, but they end up sacrificing the out of the dog, and later on struggle to get the dog to out the toy because their primary focus was teaching the dog obedience, not establishing control and authority over the dog. Another tip I have is to not steal the toy item away from the dog. A lot of owners will try to quickly steal the toy as soon as the dog drops the toy onto the ground. This is going to create more frustration and give the dog a certain element of mistrust towards you, because they will feel as if you are taking advantage of the situation when they drop the toy item. Rather, move the toy item slowly and allow the dog to make the mistake by biting onto it, and then simply remind them of the out command and let go of the toy item and use the leash and collar to remind them. This is going to create true authority over the dog and the toy, and the dog will not grow suspicious of you, thinking that you're going to steal the toy away from them the second that they drop it. The last tip that I have when teaching the out command is to let go of that toy item. I see a lot of owners struggle because they want the dog to let go of the toy item, but they themselves do not let go of the item. This does a few things. One of the first things is it creates tension on the toy, and the dog still thinks that they're playing a game of tug with you. And so, of course, the dog doesn't want to end the game and drop the toy if they still think they're playing. The other thing that this does is, much like stealing the toy away from the dog, this can create elements of mistrust, because you're asking the dog to drop the toy item, but you yourself are not letting go, which can teach the dog that the rule only applies to them, rather than applying to both of you. You have to remember that when you tell the dog to out the toy, you both have to let go of it, because you both are participating in this game. And because you both participate in the game, you both have to follow the same rules. I hope you find this video helpful in your training endeavors. And until next time, train on.